Q.10 Why Marxian dialectics is known as dialectical materialism. 1. Conceptual introduction. Marxian dialectics is called dialectical materialism because it represents a synthesis of two distinct but interrelated philosophical traditions, dialectics, derived from Hegelian idealism, and materialism, rooted in scientific realism. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels combined these approaches to create a comprehensive worldview explaining social, political, and economic change through the conflict of material forces. It is called dialectical because it interprets reality as a process of constant motion, contradiction, and development, and it is called materialism because it attributes these changes not to ideas or divine will, but to material conditions of life, primarily economic and productive forces. 2. Historical background. Before Marx, philosophy was divided mainly into two traditions. Idealism, represented by Georg Wilhelm Friedrich Hegel, which held that reality is fundamentally spiritual or mental, and that material existence is a manifestation of ideas. 2. Materialism, represented by early modern thinkers such as Democritus, Bacon, and Feuerbach, who viewed matter as the ultimate reality, but understood it in a static, mechanical way. Marx accepted Hegel's dialectical method of understanding change through contradiction and synthesis but rejected Hegel's idealism. He turned Hegel upside down, arguing that it is not consciousness that determines being, but rather social being that determines consciousness. Hence, he replaced Hegel's dialectical idealism with his own dialectical materialism. Meaning of the two components. 3. The dialectical aspect, the logic of change and contradiction. The term dialectical refers to a method of reasoning and explanation that emphasizes the dynamic, contradictory, and interconnected nature of reality. In Hegelian terms, every phenomenon, the thesis, gives rise to its opposite, the antithesis, and their conflict results in a higher stage of unity, the synthesis. Marx retained this logic but reinterpreted it in material terms. For Marx, dialectics explains how contradictions within material and social systems generate change. Society, history, and economy evolve not through harmony but through conflict between forces and relations of production, between classes, and between old and new modes of life. Thus, dialectics for Marx is the science of universal interconnection and change. Example. In capitalist society, the contradiction between the bourgeoisie, owners of production, and the proletariat, workers, represents the driving dialectical force that will eventually lead to the synthesis, a classless, communist society. 4. The materialist aspect, primacy of the material world. Materialism, in Marx's philosophy, means that matter, not spirit or mind, is the fundamental substance of reality. All phenomena, including human thought, religion, and morality, arise from material conditions of existence, particularly the mode of production. Marx's materialism differs from mechanical materialism because it recognizes matter as dynamic and self-developing, not passive or static. Human consciousness, for Marx, is a reflection of material life. It is not the consciousness of men that determines their existence, but their social existence that determines their consciousness. Thus, history must be understood not by studying ideas alone, but by analyzing material relations, class, labor, ownership, and production. Example. The rise of industrial capitalism was not caused by abstract ideas of freedom or progress, but by the transformation of material production. Technological innovations, division of labor, and private property, which, in turn, shaped human consciousness and social institutions. 2. The synthesis, dialectical materialism. 5. Unity of dialectics and materialism. By uniting the dialectical method with materialist philosophy, Marx created a scientific framework for understanding historical development. Dialectical materialism asserts that material reality is not static but dynamic, evolving through internal contradictions. These contradictions drive progress and transformation, both in nature and in society. Thus, Marx's dialectics differs from Hegel's dialectics movement of ideas, idealism. Marx's dialectics movement of material forces, materialism. In simple terms, Marx kept Hegel's logic but changed its foundation from mind to matter, from ideas to economic conditions, and from speculative philosophy to historical science. 6. The dialectical laws according to Marx and Engels. Engels, in Dialectics of Nature, identified 3 major laws of dialectical materialism. I. The law of the unity and conflict of opposites. All things contain contradictions. Example, labor versus capital, which drive change. 2. The law of the transformation of quantity into quality. Gradual quantitative changes accumulate until they cause a qualitative transformation. Example, continuous technological advances lead to industrial revolutions. 3. The law of the negation of negation. Development occurs through a cyclical process in which each stage negates but also preserves elements of the previous one. Example, feudalism negated by capitalism, capitalism negated by socialism. These laws explain how history and nature evolve through dialectical interaction, not external intervention. 7. Historical materialism. As an extension, dialectical materialism provides the philosophical basis for Marx's theory of historical materialism. Historical materialism applies dialectical principles to society and history, asserting that the economic structure, the base, determines political, legal, and ideological institutions, the superstructure. Changes in the mode of production thus lead to changes in social order, for example, the shift from feudalism to capitalism and eventually to socialism. Example: the Industrial Revolution transformed material production, creating a capitalist economy, which in turn generated new social classes, new political systems, and new ideologies. This transformation exemplifies dialectical materialism in historical motion. 3. Philosophical and political implications. 8. Rejection of idealism and determinism. By emphasizing material conditions, Marx rejected metaphysical and religious explanations of history. However, unlike mechanical materialism, Marx's dialectical materialism acknowledges human agency. People make history, but under conditions not entirely of their choosing. This view combines structure and agency. Material conditions shape action, but human struggle transforms those conditions. 9. Practical relevance, from philosophy to revolution. Dialectical materialism is not merely an abstract philosophy but a tool for political and social transformation. It provides the intellectual foundation for Marxism as a revolutionary theory. By revealing the material contradictions in capitalist society, it offers a scientific explanation of exploitation and a roadmap for achieving socialism. Marx famously said, "Philosophers have only interpreted the world in various ways. The point, however, is to change it." 4. Summary for quick understanding. Marxian dialectics is known as dialectical materialism because it combines Hegel's method of dialectical reasoning with materialist philosophy. It is dialectical, as it views reality as a process of change driven by contradictions, and materialist because it grounds all phenomena in material conditions rather than ideas. This synthesis provides a scientific understanding of historical development and social transformation, asserting that economic structures determine consciousness and that contradictions within these structures propel history forward. Quick revision notes. Dialectics is equal to process of change through contradictions. Materialism is equal to primacy of matter over mind. Hegel is equal to dialectical idealism, ideas move history. Marx is equal to dialectical materialism, material conditions move history. Key laws is equal to unity of opposites, quantity to quality, negation of negation. Historical materialism is equal to application of dialectical materialism to society. Core idea is equal to social being determines consciousness. 6 one-line questions and answers for revision. 1. Who developed the theory of dialectical materialism? Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. 2. Why is it called dialectical? Because it explains change through contradictions and conflict. 3. Why is it called materialism? Because it attributes primacy to material conditions, not ideas. 4. Whose dialectical method did Marx adopt? Hegel's, but inverted it materially. 5. What is the essence of dialectical materialism? Reality is dynamic and shaped by material forces. 6. What does base refer to in Marxian theory? The economic structure of society. 7. What does superstructure include? Political, legal, and ideological institutions. 8. Which law explains transformation through conflict? The law of unity and conflict of opposites. 9. How does Marx differ from mechanical materialists? He sees matter as active and self-developing. 10. What is the practical goal of dialectical materialism? To understand and transform society. 7. Final connection. Marxian dialectics is known as dialectical materialism because it unites the dynamic method of dialectics with the realist foundation of materialism, creating a scientific philosophy of change. It replaces metaphysical speculation with concrete analysis, viewing history as the product of evolving material conditions and class struggles. Thus, it stands as the intellectual backbone of Marxism, explaining not only how the world changes but also how human beings, through material struggle, can change it. Q.11 What is legitimacy?